White Porch Conversations.
Hey guys, what's going on? Welcome to, was it episode 17? 17, episode 17 of the White Porch Conversations, and you have heard 17 incredible conversations over the last several months. And when we were planning this and I was thinking about doing this, there's multiple reasons for what I'm about to say. But beyond a shadow of a doubt, there was one thing that I knew, and that was we couldn't do this without having the person that's sitting on this porch with me today. And on top of that, the Lord has given us the favor of the most incredible day that we could ever ask for. I mean, it is we could sit on this white porch today for hours. This is what a white porch is supposed to feel like right here. But I'm sitting here with someone that, like I said, it's for multiple reasons. It's because he's like a father in the kingdom to me. He is someone that I've grown up and been able to watch. Not only that, but he's someone who is legacy in the kingdom, and somebody that not only he but the generation before him, his mom and dad, have been incredibly big impacts and influences in my life. And on top of that, his mother and my grandmother are the best of friends. I don't want to hurt anybody's feelings, but I'm quite certain that if you ask my grandmother and she was honest, Linda Arrowood is her very best friend in the whole world. And my grandfather would have said the same thing about his father. And both of those men have gone on to be with the Lord. But to sit on a white porch with this guy is so much bigger than just hearing his story. This is a deep family connection. This is a deep kingdom connection. And I'm just so thrilled to be here today with someone that I look up to, I aspire to. I know that I get the pleasure of being his pastor, but he feeds me much more than he will ever realize. And if you guys don't know him, this is Byron Arrowood. I guess born and raised in Lincoln County, right? Yeah, you weren't born in North Carolina or anything. You were in Lincoln County. His dad was able to pastor in other places. We'll get into all that. But he's a born and bred guy here, figure in this community that is, I would label him a pillar in this community, the way that he loves this community, the way that he pours into this community, the way that he encourages. He's on our elder board at Faith Community Church, the way that he leads our elder board to want to pour into this community. If you're out there and you don't know, now you know. This is one of the men that is making one of the biggest impacts in this area, and not necessarily just personally. And he's a very behind the scenes person. He is not going to do any of this stuff so that he gets credit, he gets attention. He does it behind the scenes through the church. In fact, I know a lot of what he gives through the church. He'll tell me, he'll say, listen, I want this to go to such and such to help this need, but don't make a big deal about it. And I mean, this community is, I don't think they know how blessed they are to have somebody like this. And I think that's the longest intro I've ever given anyone. I probably need to stop so that we can actually let you talk a little bit today. But thank you for being on the porch with me today, Byron.
Well, you're quite welcome.
And your story is so different than the one we heard just last week when we talked to Chris. He grew up, as he said, kind of in an atheist home and a family that was very either indifferent towards God or sometimes even anti-God. You have the exact opposite experience. You are a preacher's kid, a PK. And not just any preacher, a holiness preacher's kid. That's a different style of preacher's kid right there. Your dad was a pastor. You grew up in the church. I know that you have a lot of memory in the church. And without going too far into the future, let me help you with this part, because I don't want to go into the season that you got to where you were kind of like, man, religion is kind of something I don't want to be. But talk about what it was like growing up under a father and a mother like you had that are, again, you just made the statement, you don't know what you had when you're younger, but now you can look back and you can see it.
You don't know what you have until you lose it. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
I was blessed to have wonderful parents, strict parents. Early on, very strict. But we all grow, and they grew, and I lived a storybook life. I'll just tell you. I mean, we were in church. Who tells the story about drugged to church? I was drugged. I was drugged to Wednesday. I was drugged to Sunday.
Yes.
I was drugged to Sunday night to youth group. But we went every time the doors were open, and I'm thankful for it.
And early on, you guys went to Crossroads before he became a pastor. Is that right?
Crossroads, and then he became a pastor. He was bivocational, meaning that he was a mechanic, and he also, during the week, and pastored on the weeknights and weekends. He pastored small churches in South Carolina, in Lula, Georgia. We drove back and forth for many a weekends to Lula, Georgia. Then he pastored Cedartown, Georgia for a couple of years in the mid-'70s. Then he came back to pastor here in Lincoln and at Faith Temple from 75 to 80 when I graduated. Then he went back to Cedartown for 2 years, and then he was back here.
Yeah.
So,
and then you also have an uncle that pastors on top of that. I don't know if you have more than one uncle that pastors, but I know Uncle Roland.
I had multiple preachers.
Yeah.
I had one other pastor, if I'm not, Uncle Harlow, and two others, Uncle Harlow and Uncle Roland. Uncle Harlow was a Baptist preacher, and Uncle Roland is a holiness preacher.
Yeah. So like, these are two questions that I have been so anxious to ask you, and we don't go over this stuff before. Just so I remind you, he would probably like it if I had asked him these questions. But there are two questions for him that I've been wanting to ask for weeks since we've been wanting to do it. Number one, tell me and tell us, because I have so much respect for your parents. Let's start with Dad. What is the one thing above everything else that you, as you look at his life, that you have either, gleaned from, learned, maybe it's learned is I don't know the right word, but you know what I'm saying, something you received from him as now you are where you are, and you have a little bit more of a wider scope of what he was and how he operated. Man, could you narrow it down to one thing with somebody
really,
like him?
Really, I can. Really, I can. Just unconditional love. That's what I tell you. And I mean, we all say that about our father, but my dad, it didn't matter what I had done wrong. He might take his belt to me. But when the day was over, and I will tell you that later on in life as we worked together, he and I, as you call me passionate, my daddy was extremely passionate, and we had very many passionate conversations that ended mostly with the buck stops here, talking about Dad who sat across from me, and then don't let the door hit you in the fanny on the way out. But our conversations, when they were over, they were over. It didn't matter how loud we got or how extreme we got. When we were through, we were through. It was a very it was just a very good way to be. We didn't carry it home. I didn't lay my head down mad at anybody ever that I know of in my life. I didn't carry hate to bed or not hate, but
I know what you're saying.
Yeah, I didn't carry bitterness,
hurt,
I didn't
anger.
carry it to bed.
Yeah.
So I believe that was a trait that my mom and dad both passed down to me, not to hold grudges. They were a loving group that didn't.
Oh, your dad
grudge.
and your mom too. But man, when I think about your dad, that is definitely one of the things that I think about. To be, from that holiness background, you said it a moment ago. That's something they grew in big time, and I'm sure you watched that really blossom before your eyes. Them go from a very legalistic mentality, very religious spirits,
very much so.
and then shift into a really grace, kingdom, love of God, people. Man, when I think of your dad, and I'm sure, like you just said, there are people through the years who can remember hard conversations, because we all have had hard conversations with everybody. But when I think of Uncle Nolan, and you guys have to forgive me, I call him Uncle Nolan and Aunt Linda. That's just what we grew up calling them. Man, I think of a very loving man. I think that's a great picture.
That was his persona. He was big teddy bear.
Yeah, absolutely.
Big teddy bear. Yeah, for sure.
All right, so now follow that up with Mom, as we think about Aunt Linda, and she's someone obviously that the Lord still has in your life. So, this is still developing, I'm sure.
You taught me this word. You said passionate.
Yes.
She's a very passionate person.
She is.
And she's also has probably more faith than anyone I know.
Come on. Yes.
And probably the most faithful person I know. You know, short of, I put her and Donald Brady right in the same brackets. As far, I'm not in the competition, but just as far as they were that much Christ-like. She's outspoken. You know where you know exactly how she feels, good, bad, or indifferent. But she loves like no other.
Faith, man. That is, when I think of her, that's a great word. I mean, one of the most faith-filled people, and I think that becomes something that is contagious when you get around her. It's hard to be around her and not be filled with faith. You know, if you step in and she's going to pray with you about something, or if even if she's giving you a hard word where you know it's true, you know, I mean, she's telling you like it is, and it's true, it still builds up your faith. It's amazing. She does it like nobody I know.
It is. It really is amazing.
Yeah. So, so then, all right, let's go. As you grew up in the church. I, as a very young boy, have memories of praise team practices with you and Trina, your awesome wife. And a lot of people don't know Trina was on the praise team. Byron played in that band. Back then, we would be at the church for hours and hours per practice. And then all of a sudden, there was this really tough season, not just in your life. I don't even know if me asking it from your point of view is the best way to ask it, because it was like it was a thing that happened through a group of people, through some really hard church hurt, some really difficult season, and you. I would definitely not use the word rebel. I don't know that that's the right word.
I don't think it was rebel as much as
just got fed up with religion.
I got fed up with religion.
Yeah.
and what was going on. I felt like at the time I was on the board at the church, and
I didn't know that.
No,
I did not know that.
And I had Trina was having some health issues. She had migraines. She had some other issues, and I had just started a business, and we had 2 young children, and I felt like probably a lot like what Clay feels. I hear him talking about being overwhelmed.
Yeah.
And I just thought something had to give, and the one thing I wanted to give up was my position at the church. I wasn't leaving the church, but then I got kind of openly ridiculed for stepping down, and I just thought, I really don't need this.
Wow.
I mean, this isn't what the church is about.
Yeah.
And it mostly came from one individual who was a pastor at that time. And I'm not going to name names, but
I know who it is.
But I didn't,
let me tell you, he did that with a lot of people. He ran a lot of people out of there.
Yeah, but later on, a good friend of mine, Ricky Ashmore, said, "You're going to take your toys and go home every time you get hurt." And he really doesn't know to this day how that changed my life.
Wow.
I didn't immediately go back to church at Faith Temple at that point in time, but it wrecked my mind. And I think often that I've tried not to allow hurt to get into my life since that point in time.
Yeah.
Or change me, because if you go around looking for hurt, you will find it.
Yes, sir.
Now, I'm not telling you things don't hurt. That's not what I'm meaning, and I'm not meaning roll over, but I'm just telling you, from everything that I've been through, you're better off to choose not to be hurt. Yes. That's what I do. I choose not to be hurt anymore.
So I love that you have this part of your story, because I know what it's like to grow up in the church under great parents and just like you at the time, have a solid family myself now at this stage of my life. And I think some people look at people like us, like you and I, and they just think that the journey of faith was always easy. I think that's the way people perceive us. And I don't think people realize how much struggle there is in that journey for people like you, and that you were able to walk through what was a really difficult season where, I mean, I'm just going to, guess what it was like, because I wasn't you, but to lose everything you had really ever known as far as community. That's okay.
I'm sorry.
As far as the community of faith that you were in, and your best friends were all in church with you at the time, and a lot of you guys stayed close. I don't mean that like you lost your friend, because you guys, Tommy and Evelyn were close to you, and that was a season that was hard for them. They walked through. Ricky went through that season with hurt, and he was one of your best friends. But all of you guys, man, you lost a lot of what was familiar with you guys.
And we tried desperately to find it, because we tried to go into church in Augusta with the Duttons, whom I love and admire, but it just seemed like it was too far to be a part of something.
Mm-hmm.
When you're in a community, it's a whole lot easier to be a part of. We tried driving to Appleton to the church down here on the left, going to Appleton and Leah.
Oh, yeah.
And, where Patrick went to church at.
Yeah.
I tried that, and there were great people. We went to First Assembly, and just nothing fit like our family. That's all I know how to say it, is family at Faith Temple, or Faith Community as it now is.
Yeah.
Your family, our family, the Bradys, the Ashmores, they're all a part of my family. I grew up with them.
Absolutely.
So it was just nothing like it. So we wound up out of church for... I hate it because it was a critical time in my children's lives. Not that they've turned out bad. I have 2 wonderful daughters, and I have 2 wonderful sons, and 3 beautiful grandchildren that I love all dearly. But we wound up out of church during a good portion of the 90s, and then before we got back in. I'll just be honest with you. I mean, I played in a country, Elijah Clark.
We got to get Aaron out
a local band for a number of years to 2000. Matter of fact, our last date, Aaron, was 12/31/19, or 12. Is it 31 days in December?
Yes.
12/31/1999.
There you go.
So
the last day of
we partied like it was
the millennium.
Y2K.
Yeah, and Aaron went on to take your place with Ricky Goolsby for a little bit.
He did.
Yeah, and then what's beautiful is just your story, not just yours, but all of you guys. The Bible talks about remnants, and we did a message about it a few years ago about those that make it through those seasons, and how I've watched all of you guys come back. I mean, even Ricky and even Ricky and Tommy and Evelyn and all of you guys, and how that season that you walked through didn't keep you out.
It had a lot to do with my mother and the Bradys.
Yeah.
They kept holding on and praying for us and wanting us to come back to church. And Brother Brady would ask every time I sang, "When you coming back to church?" And finally we broke. He broke through. Let's put it like that. My mom broke through, and we came back to church, and still walked through some lean years, but. God has been faithful. He's been very good to us.
Then you went through another season that I was going to let you tell a little bit of your testimony about. That I know a lot of people that were from the community at the time know about it, but I'm sure there are a lot that have never heard. You went through a really difficult time with a daughter and a sickness, and the Lord really showed up in your life at that time, and that was before you went through another situation with your business a few years later. So there were 2 big storms that you walked through in your life, one being with your daughter and her health, the second being 2008. You always talk about the years, that year and that season in your life with your business and the struggles there. Yeah. And through both of those, God has shown you his faithfulness, and I would love if you just shared a little bit about what you experienced from the Lord in that.
I believe, and Trina remembers all the dates, like she remembers everything. But somewhere in Taylor's teenage years, and I want to say 12, 13, 14, we had planned to go to Disney World. And I got a call from the school and said Taylor's hands had turned blue. And the phone call said, "Blue like your blue jeans." And I didn't know what to think. That sounded like circulation. I thought heart. I didn't know. I went and picked her up, took her to Dr. Pat Barmore's office, and I think he almost knew immediately what it was. because he told me, he said, it's not life-threatening at the moment. He said, I said, we're fixing to go to Disney World. I said, you need to tell me if I don't need to go out of town. He said, no. He said, y'all go on, have a good time, and we'll do some tests when she gets back. Well, anyhow, they did a bunch of blood work when we got back from Disney World, and she tested positive for Raynaud's disease, which in itself is not a deadly illness. It's blood flow. It's a connective tissue disease, and the blood flow just doesn't go to your extremities as well. But it also goes along with other. She tested positive for mixed connective tissue diseases like rheumatoid arthritis and a disease called scleroderma, which is going to get long. I don't want to get too long and drug out and boring, but scleroderma, what it will do, will crystallize your lungs.
Yes. Yeah.
It is very deadly.
Very, very.
But they have no idea of the onset. That's the one thing. It's a very unpredictable disease. It could happen immediately and be less than 12 months, or it could carry on later on in life. Well, all I can tell you is we went to a number of specialists, none of which knew any more than Pat Barmore. They couldn't tell us anything other than what I've just told you. I'm in a nutshell. And we went to Charleston to MUSC, which is Medical University of Charleston, MUCS, Charleston, South Carolina. And we went to Augusta to Medical College of Georgia in the rheumatology department. And, we prayed and cried and prayed and cried, and I just asked God to heal her. And one day they'd had her on a bunch of meds, and she said, Daddy, I can't live like this, because one of them was high-dose prednisone. I mean, we're not talking about like what we get. I'm talking about like 40, 50 milligrams. We get like 10 milligram tablets, you and I do. When we get a cold or something, you go 50, 40, 30, down to 10. Well, she was on 50 milligrams a day for a while. And she said, Daddy, I can't live like this. I said, well, baby, I said, well, just don't take no more. We'll see what happens. And I said, we'll believe God for your healing. And all I can tell you, she still has Raynaud's. Her hands will still turn blue. But she's not had any, and she may have a little arthritis, but her mother has arthritis. And I believe God can heal her of all that.
Yeah.
So I'm not giving up on getting rid of the arthritis. But all I can tell you is she's healthy.
Come on.
And she has a beautiful son that's 5 years old. She's been married. She's an engineer that I'm so proud of. Like, I'm proud of both of my daughters, not just her. But, I mean, I'm really very proud of them. And she has a wonderful husband, John, and God has been good.
Yeah.
That's all I can tell you.
Absolutely. I remember that situation probably better than I remember most. Because we were close in age. She was just a few years younger than me, and we were in high school together during a lot of those years. And man, the Lord definitely did an amazing thing there. And I take it back to what you said. You've received a legacy of faith from your mom, and you knew to believe for healing because she's instilled that in you. And I know she believed for it the whole time. So it's amazing. And then in 2008, you as a business, like every business in 2008, I believe, every small business. And I just love you. I love to hear you tell people your testimony of what the Lord spoke to you. And you are it's just specific. It's matter of fact. It's short. It's simple. Not a lot of hoopla to it. Like some people try to think that the Lord works with, all this stuff. And he gave you one line. He said, this is what you need to do. You listened, you obeyed, and he brought you through it, and you stand here today, and the Lord has shown you he is good.
God is faithful. That's what I'll tell you. In July, we've been hearing slow down, sort of like right now. Slow down, it's going to slow down, and we were rolling. In July, we were doing numbers bigger than ever in July of, it was actually 7, I believe.
Okay.
But it really didn't matter.
Yeah, anyhow, I think you're right. I think I said it wrong.
In August, business dropped by 60%. And it was a multitude of different things. It was economy. It was the perfect storm,
right,
as the story goes. And it didn't come back. we were fortunate enough to land some larger deals around Christmas that put it off, but eventually I had to let the two people I had go. There's nobody but me and Trina, and this went on for what seemed like eternity, but probably about 12 months realistically. And I would go in, I couldn't sleep. I'd get up at 4 o'clock in the morning and go to the office and cry and pray, and just cause I had a mortgage on my home, on my business, on my parts, on my vehicles. I had two children, well, one in college and one fixing to start college, so I was going to have two in college at the same time, and the world was falling out from underneath me. I never got behind on anything, but I mean, we were always just right here. And I would call in anxiety attacks as I was riding up the road. I would call my wife just to hear a voice, because I just needed that peace. And I listened to many people make fun of Joel Osteen, but what I'll tell you is it's a positive word that has helped many people, and I'm one of them.
Come on. Yeah.
I know what it's like to be depressed and
Come on.
broke and broken and thinking I'm going to lose everything in this world. And not that any of it matters. God, it all belongs to God, but when you're going through it, you don't see it that way.
Right.
You know, in the moment, it's easy to
Yeah.
say now, but in the moment, it didn't seem that way. Probably the breaking point was I was a basket, and Trina was working with me, and I put my hand on the phone one day at her desk phone. I said, my brother Brett had offered me a job. I said, I'm gonna call Brett and take that job. And she put her hand on top of mine and she said, be still. And I'd never told her this, but there were two words in my spirit the whole time I'm going through this hell was, be still and I will restore.
Come on.
And I had never told her those things, and it's just not like her to say, be still. I could see her say, no, don't, anything but be still. And the hair all over my body just kind of stood up, and I had to stop and cry, and I told her what was in my spirit. I said, I hate that I didn't write it down so you could look and see that, this is what's really been in my, this is real, what's been in my spirit for 6 months now. And but she said, be still. She said, I'm with you, sink or swim. And we did a lot of treading water for the next 3 or 4 years. But God, I don't know, I did a lot of growing up at that point. Dad had died in 2006. And when you got Dad, you always got somebody that you feel like you can lean back on in tough times. And he was gone. So when
you had a double blessing in your dad. He was a kingdom man of faith, and he knew your business. That's right. so you could really lean into him. I come to the understanding of the buck stops here. The real understanding of it, when there was nobody back there behind me. I mean, my wife was with me. Don't get me wrong, by any stretch of the imagination. But as I've often told her, is I feel the load or the burden of being a provider. I mean, just it's a man thing. It's just you feel like it's your responsibility. Yeah.
And but we treaded water for a few years, and I got to listening to Dave Ramsey. I never took the class, but I knew the specifics of it. You know, to pay off your smallest debt, and then the next one, and the next one. And God started dropping people into my life, and if you don't think that everybody you meet is important, you really don't understand the kingdom.
Yeah.
People that I met in 1980 started calling me and saying, can I buy parts from you? From out of nowhere. And then they'd say, well, will you sell to this customer in North Carolina that I'd never met? And I said, sure. And then the customer in North Carolina, out of the blue, says, he sends me this big old long quote. It's about, I don't know, 4 pages long, a whole bunch of odd parts that I'd never seen. And he says, you quote these? I quoted him. He said, he calls him back. He said, there's not enough room for me to make any money, but if you want to sell this, he said, I've been doing business with a South African for a number of years who's always been good for it. If you're interested, I'll hook y'all up. And I did, and let's just say God restored. How about that?
Come on.
With people that you don't, I mean, just come from out of nowhere. And I sit every day amazed that I've done business in practically all 48 states in the continuum United States. I've tried to sit down and count them up, but I'm pretty sure, maybe not Maine or I have sent stuff to Connecticut. And then I've done business in Spain. I do business in China on a regular basis, in Canada, all over the United States. I mean, God has blessed me beyond my wildest dreams. I'm not rich, but what He did do was He walked me through getting out of debt. And
wow.
if you want, that's the most amazing feeling, short of God forgiving you, is the next thing, having all your debt forgiven or paid off. Was that makes me feel rich if I'm not.
Well, that's the comparison they use for our sins anyway. So
exactly
that should show you how freeing it can feel.
That's exactly right. So that's the long and the short and a real small. But I can tell you that every day God puts people in our lives that we don't understand. We take for granted what they may have to do for us years down the road.
Yeah.
Because one of them, it literally was about 20 years before I realized what He meant to me, or what He was going to mean to me and my family.
Wow.
I mean, Lamar Leroy is a prime example. I mean, we talked about that. Had it not been for Lamar getting Dad hired at Yancey Brothers, now myself, my brother, and my two nephews work in the industry 3 generations later because of Lamar Leroy.
Yeah.
So.
Wow. 2 other things I was going to get you to share. Number 1, if there's anything that I know, and there are a lot of, I'm sure everybody can tell, I think a lot of you as I introduced you, and there are a lot of things that I could honor you for, but probably the thing that I think that is the most utilized in your life right now, and I think that a lot of people would back me on this, is your spirit of generosity and wanting to bless your community. And you and I have a lot of conversations about, wanting to, see our community be strengthened, and that we need to lead the way on that. And if you were to share with somebody out there what that part of your life and how you've grown in that part and what you're seeing out of that, I would love it if you would tell them, because it's something that you've grown into so incredibly.
Well, there are a couple of sides to it. First and foremost, in the late 2014, I had started taking the offering, and I don't like to stand up and take an offering. They made my dad do it. They said he was good at it. He had to take offerings at Shingle Hollow. He took where you had people, how many give $100 or $500 or something? I hated that. Not my dad. He was just being. He was just being, trying to be a good servant. I mean, he would do it. So I wasn't going to do that. So I just wanted to. If I got up to take offering, I wanted to have. And the only scripture I ever read that really, really spoke to me was Malachi 3.
Yeah.
And it still is true today. It's a faithful and true scripture. See if I it says, test me.
Yes.
And see if I won't open the windows of heaven and pour out my blessings on you. And it's a true statement. Second of all is you can't change the world without changing the community around you. Yeah. That's all I can tell you.
Yeah.
That's how we change the world.
Yeah.
It's changing our brothers and our sisters, helping our brothers and our sisters, touching their lives.
Yeah. So. Well, it's been an amazing thing to be partnered with you for that, because I know a lot of pastors work with a lot of different leaders and elders and all of this stuff, and to be able to walk hand in hand with somebody like you that believes in your community and loves your community, and there is never a time. In fact, I'll go further than that. Not only is there never a time he doesn't want to help, usually when something gets brought up, he wants to do more than the way that I bring it up. He'll say, well, we can do more than that. We can, and then we're able to get behind his heart and his vision to say, yeah, we can do more than that, and we should do more than that. And it is just, man, it's incredible. I'm going to tell you guys, if you're out there and you want to grow in an attitude and a spirit of generosity, these are the type of people you need mentoring you, investing into your life. I've made the statement many times over the last several years that this is one area of my life that I've grown into. I could give you a list of things the Lord has used me to do in the last 4 years that I would never have dreamed that God would have used me to do in the area of generosity that we don't talk about. We don't tell people, oh, we did this, we did that. But it's because I had a man like this that was leading the way in my life, and he showed me. And not only have I been able to see the blessings in other people's lives that we've been able to give to them, but just like his story, we're the product of God opening the floodgates of heaven, the windows of heaven, and pouring out into our life. And he's honoring that. So I just love that. So the last thing I was going to ask you as we close, and I don't know, this may be a tough answer for you, but just like the one about your mom and dad, this is one I've been wanting to ask you. One of the things that you bring up a lot, just like I do, is a lot of the great voices, the great words that have come through our community, Faith Temple at the time. I mean, you were there for a lot of people that would speak over that house, over what the Lord wanted to do here. And I think about those things. They stay fresh in my mind. And there are sometimes I wish I had more access to some of the recordings of some of those things. So I could go back and listen specifically. But is there one thing that sticks out in your mind that you know was spoken over us, over this community, that you're believing, that either you're seeing or that it's ushering in right now? I just know that that's...
Well, the last 5 years. I mean, It's a complete... let's see. I've heard this prophesied, and I've told you that you were born for this moment in time. And I mean that with all my heart. All the things that were prophesied down through the years while I was growing up about church growth, and that we'd reach out and touch the world, and that we would have television programs on across the world, and we're literally have television programs on in the Middle East and all over Europe. And who knew that this was going to be the way through social media? But who cares? I mean, that would be it. I mean, the fulfillment of prophecies from my teenage years that I see happening right before me right now, and through you. And I thought you were going to ask who was going to be the one person who's made the biggest impact.
Who is that?
The one preacher.
If you're going to bring it up.
Well, I'm going to tell you, it's John Belangia. Without any hesitancy, I sit and listen to a lot of great ministers, and I can name them. The Brady, all of the Bradys, Joby Sherrill, Donald Brady, G.C. McCurry, any number of the Duttons, Jim Dutton, Joe Dutton, Rick Dutton, who I don't remember as well, but I remember them as younger men. All those were great ministers in my life. And Paul Yates, short of my dad and you, my only real other pastor in my life, spoke volumes into my life. But if I got to pick one, it's John Belangia.
Well, thank you. He's going to kill me on here. I'm a crier, if you know that about me. See, I told you guys this was going to be awesome. This is why I've been looking forward to this one, and I think that this is the perfect way to end this first season of this. We're not gonna end this. We're gonna keep doing this because we're getting more positive feedback. Even Byron was telling us before we started that he has loved hearing these stories and these voices and these people. So this is not gonna stop. But I want to thank you.
I want to take a minute and just encourage anyone that has the opportunity, because I thought I was going to get it. I said, nobody wants to hear what I got to say. And I don't know that you do, but my story is all I have to share. It's just like the stories all throughout the Bible, everyone, Joshua, all of the Old Testaments, they were all about individuals, and it was their story. And that's all that they had to share. That's how we know them. So you never know whose life you're going to touch just by sharing your story, who's in the same position that you were in, that you're going to encourage. So if you have the opportunity, I told John, Revelations says we're made overcomers by the blood of the Lamb and the word of our testimony.
Yeah.
It's a powerful word.
Amen. Come on. We got to leave it here, man, because this is so good. I told you I could sit on this porch with him. I could literally do this for hours. But it is an honor to sit on the porch with somebody like Byron, somebody that comes from the bloodline of Byron, that comes from the generations of people that have impacted not just me, but the generations of my family. We didn't even get into all that. I thought about talking about that when I was coming into it, but I was like, no, he gets to share that story at different times. We give him, but it's just amazing to be able to sit here with him. And I just want to tell him that I appreciate him, that I love him, this community loves him. And I'm telling you guys, if you need a figure in your life, he is a true mentor, a true person that loves people and wants to see them prosper in Christ, in God, in their spiritual life, in their physical life, in their business, every part. He leads a prayer group every Friday morning at 6:30 in the morning at the home cafe that we go to, and it is one of the best times of the week for me. I just can't say enough about what he does. So why don't we celebrate this life and just listen, pray that God continues to use him in this community, not just him, but his awesome wife. We mentioned her several times. He's got an incredible wife, Trina, that is his rock. And absolutely, behind every great man, there's a great woman.
Absolutely.
A greater woman. So he's got that. But it has been great to be able to have this conversation today. We love you, Byron. Love you guys. Thank you for being a part. I promise you, he is always here. If he can ever do anything for you, if you need advice, need somebody to pray with you, this is your guy. He will do it and he will mean it, and he wants to see you succeed. He is not one of those church people we always talk about that want you to get right below them. He's somebody that wants the best for your life. So I just encourage you guys to, if you don't know him, get to know him. Thank you for being with us. It's been awesome these last few months. We'll be back with you in just a couple months. We're going to kick it back off in August with some new stories, some new conversations. But we hope you have a great Thursday night. God bless you, and we'll see you later.
The White Porch Conversations.